We are at review number 4 for my day. I do not think review number 3 was my best work, but somehow I managed to speak for 48 minutes. So we'll see what happens with this review. Today's book is This Summer Will Be Different by Carley Fortune. This is my third Carley Fortune book. I didn't think so much of Every Summer After. It really wasn't a terrible book, but there were enough things wrong with it that I just couldn't love it. But This Summer Will Be Different is more in line with Meet Me at the Lake. And please just give me grace if you ever watch that review. I could not keep my train of thought when I was doing that one. But I thought these two were just really nice, lovely romances with great lead characters who had great chemistry, and it moved along really well. I will say for This Summer Will Be Different, my two main issues are the main male lead, who is Felix / Wolf. Name is Felix. Everybody calls him Wolf. He was just too perfect. Perfect in bed, perfect in life. And then my other issue, the whole reason of this book is that the main character's best friend is supposed to be getting married. She up and disappears, and she comes back home to Prince Edward Island because she needs a breather before her wedding. We do not learn the secret behind why she left until the very end, which is great. It is great in terms of momentum and keeping the book moving forward, because that's the ultimate answer. In every book, the writer should be posing questions that are answered throughout the novel. And for this one, the ultimate question is, why did Bridget up and leave a couple days before her wedding and go home? The reason for her going home was so lackluster. I thought it was going to be far more exciting, intriguing, dramatic than what we got. But anyways, our main character is a girl named Lucy Ashby. Her best friend is Bridget. They have been friends for 10 odd years. They work together. They met at a company party because Lucy was like, I'm getting out of here. This is not my scene. Bridget, she comes across her riding her bike. They bond. Bridget had another best friend that she had grown up with, a girl named Joy. Joy joins the story because she had dated Felix for a very long time. They got engaged only for her then to break up with Felix immediately afterwards, breaking his heart. When Lucy meets him, and this is 5 years previously, like when the story opens, we are seeing her arriving at Prince Edward Island because we are yet again in Canada. And I'm like, I guess I need to go to Canada. She's arrived at Prince Edward Island, and she's supposed to be there with Bridget, but Bridget had missed her flight. So Lucy's there kind of doing her own thing, but Bridget had given her 3 rules for being on the island. 1, she has to eat her weight in oysters. 2, she has to leave the city behind. And 3, she cannot fall in love with Felix, or Wolf. Everybody calls him Wolf except for Lucy, who calls him Felix. So obviously this is a problem. And this is a back and forth in time book. I am just going to do a brief overview of the past. So Lucy shows up, goes to this bar, and she meets this guy shucking oysters, and they get super flirtatious. Sorry, I just can't. Lucy is something of an uptight personality, so the fact that she says what she says to Felix, I feel like is a little uncharacteristic, except that she has a very open attitude when it comes to sex and physical relationships. But anyway, so she meets Felix, they get super flirty, and then she says something about how she's wide open, which is an innuendo. They book it to where he lives, and they sleep together, and they, have sexcapades all night and all day. only for it's time for her to go, and yeah, they realize he's the brother, and this is the house that she was going to be coming to anyways. So for 5 years, they meet off and on. Like, basically every time that she comes to Prince Edward Island, she's just like, not gonna happen, because they then come up with their own set of rules. One is they're not going to tell Bridget about their tryst. 2, what happens on the island stays on the island. And 3, she still will not fall in love with him. I'm just saying, he must be a mastermind between the sheets. It was very overwhelming. Like, I think this perfection of his was overwhelming for me, because we do not see much of them connecting as a couple so much as we see them connecting physically. So then when we get to kind of the crux of the matter, it was like, I don't understand their dynamic, but good night. Maybe it's just her libido and they just have a lot of physical chemistry, but basically every year is about them re-encountering each other, trying to stay away, and then they cannot. And then her final summer, so basically the summer before the book opens, her aunt has died. So she's going through a whole lot of stuff. She has some realization around her feelings towards Felix, and that they're more than just physical, but she gets scared. And so she pushes him away, and now things are awkward between them. It is 9 days before Bridget's wedding, and Lucy owns a flower shop called In Bloom that I don't know if she inherited necessarily from her Aunt Stacy, but it was her aunt's. And then when her aunt was going to sell, she was like, but I want to run this business. So now she's in charge of the business. Her passion is flowers, not necessarily business. So she's kind of miserable, but she's also trying to grow the business. So she is in talks with a woman events manager for a hospitality group. Anyways, she's sitting there and she's sketching and she's waiting for Bridget to show up because they're going to do some last minute wedding stuff. And Bridget never shows up. Lucy thinks this is super weird because Bridget is never late in the first place, but Bridget also never tells her anything. So she's really worried, and then when she gets a hold of Bridget's like, I had to go back home. I went to Prince Edward Island. I need you to be here with me. Lucy's like, I can't. I have so much stuff to do here. One, I have that meeting with this woman so that I can expand In Bloom, but you're my best friend, so yeah, I will come, but secretly hoping that it's not going to take that long because she's got stuff to do, because she's also doing the flowers for Bridget's wedding. So she's got stuff to do. Thankfully, she has a right-hand woman who, I think her name is Farah, who is very capable and is also like, you need to get out of here, because Lucy had thrown herself into her work after her aunt had died. And so she's like, you need a break, you need to leave, I've got this, don't worry. So she goes to Prince Edward Island, and of course, things are awkward because who's there to pick her up from the airport? That would be Felix. And even Bridget is picking up on things. She's like, what's happening here? And they're both like, oh, no, nothing. And we have no idea what's happened. Like, we do not know what happened between them. Why are things awkward? I think Lucy does say something about she did something in that previous summer. So we're like, okay, now what did she do? Obviously, things do not go according to plan. So the woman whose name is Lillian, so they continue to message, and she just keeps having to push back this meeting, and she's so afraid that Lillian is going to see her as unprofessional, is going to pull out of the deal. Of course, Bridget, because we have to keep the suspense going, Bridget will not tell Lucy what happened. Her party line is that she just wanted to come home for a little bit and she wants to spend quality time with Lucy. Lucy, though, is afraid that the wedding's off and that something happened with Bridget's fiance, Miles, who I like Bridget, I like Miles. I mean, honestly, I liked the whole cast and crew. I did get kind of annoyed with Lucy sometimes, but overall, great cast of characters. Lucy's worried. She's like, is this wedding even going to continue? Because we don't know. Is Miles part of the problem? Because Lucy is like, there's no way he would have cheated on her. He worships the ground she walks on. So what could have happened? But Bridget is in contact with Miles. They continue to message. So obviously, whatever the issue is, it's not because they've broken up. Felix, one, he is prepping for a major oyster shucking competition, and this is going to be the culmination of Lucy and Bridget's stay. But he also owns a business called Saltwater Cottages, which I believe are basically saltwater cottages where people can come and stay. And so his plan was to be off and not staying at the house. But something happens and he changes his mind and he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay at the house anyways, which again makes things a little bit more tense because now they're going to be around each other and whatever happened between them has to be addressed. And of course, then there's still that sexual tension that Lucy specifically is feeling. As we move through the novel and we move back and forth in time, we see what a great home life Bridget and Felix led and how warm and loving and inviting it was and how much Lucy enjoys being part of this family dynamic and how her family life is very different, where her parents had her brother, then she was like an oops baby, and I thought it was a little strange. I think they had fertility issues, and so she was definitely a child they wanted, but they were also so afraid of her getting hurt that they kind of overcompensated. So, but I don't understand this overcompensation, but then they're kind of disregarded the fact that she was there and all their attention seemed to go to her older brother. I don't know. I thought we could have sorted things out a little bit better regarding her personal family dynamics, but the gist of it is she doesn't enjoy being part of her family. She doesn't feel seen. She doesn't feel loved. She doesn't feel respected. She has to work out those issues, but the one person in her family that she does feel seen and loved and respected by is her mother's sister, Stacy. Stacy is the one who owns In Bloom. Stacy is the one who gets Lucy into flowers in the first place. Stacy, basically 2 years prior, 1 year prior, all of a sudden it was discovered that she had cancer and she died within a matter of months. So it was very unexpected and it was a hard blow for Lucy. And this is something she's still reeling from. And then this was something that she was reeling from in the summer prior when whatever happened between her and Felix happened. There's kind of a quartet that hangs out on Prince Edward Island. It is Lucy, Bridget, Felix, and then Felix's best friend / business partner, Zach. So Zach is kind of inconsequential, but he's around a lot. So I figured he's worth mentioning. They're all hanging out. Something comes up where Lucy is like, I need answers, Bridget. What is going on? Bridget refuses to talk to her. She walks away. Felix goes to talk to Bridget, and whatever Bridget has to say, she does tell Felix, but Felix won't tell Lucy. They do have a conversation on the beach, though, and are up all night, but the only thing he will reveal is that Bridget is homesick. Which, I don't know, the final reveal was so underwhelming. I don't understand why, so a major theme of this book is friendship. So because of that, I can see why Bridget didn't want to reveal her secret just yet. But at the same time, I was just like, what's the big deal? Naturally, this conversation also segues into how Lucy is doing and how things are going with the business. And somewhere along the line, Lucy reveals, and I've already mentioned this, she just loves flowers. She just wants to work with flowers. And she had read a book by somebody, And this book was about how these people, like the author and her husband or something, had started a flower farm. And that is something that's really intriguing to Lucy. But obviously, In Bloom is her business, In Bloom is her focus, and right now, In Bloom is her life. But she doesn't actually enjoy it, but she wants it to be successful. She wants to make Stacy proud of her, even though Stacy's not around. Like, she wants to do this business justice. Of course, this next big outing that everybody is supposed to go on, Bridget backs out, and it is to go to the Green Gables Heritage Place, which is actually a factual place. I have never, which this novel reminded me, I have never read Anne of Green Gables. I had no clue that it took place in Canada. I had no idea that the author was Canadian. But if you have read it, then you would be familiar. But this historic site is the site of the author's cousin's home, where Lucy Maud Montgomery, had spent a good deal of her life and her growing up, and is what a lot of Anne of Green Gables was based off of. Lucy and Felix end up going, and they have a really good time. They do discuss what would happen if she doesn't sign the contract. Not only if she didn't sign the contract, but like, does she need Bridget to be successful? Because Bridget is, I forget what she does. She works with like numbers and money and stuff like that. And so she, in some ways, is really helpful, like accounting wise, for In Bloom. And in many ways, Lucy just feels inseparable from Bridget, and how she needs Bridget in order to get things done. Felix tells her, you don't need Bridget to be strong and successful. You are strong and successful. And this just circles back to the idea that she doesn't want to lose In Bloom, because In Bloom is the only thing that she still has left of her aunt. The next thing that happens is the oyster shucking competition, which I wish I liked oysters, but all things seafood do not pass these lips. You shall not pass. So none of this was appetizing to me, but I'm sure those of you who like oysters are like, oh my gosh, all of this food sounds so good. So we've had instances in which Felix has been practicing for this competition, and he's not necessarily having his best time. I think the winner of this competition has the ability to go to some kind of international competition in Scotland, Ireland, something. And they're all like, there's no way. I mean, he's good, but he's not that good. He's not going to win. So he actually does really well. However, before he even gets up there, we encounter not only Joy, but Joy's father. And this sends Lucy into something of a tailspin, because she sees the importance of the relationship between these two men, and how much, I think his name is Roy, how much Joy's father values and loves Felix, and how much of a part of the family he was, and what was lost when Joy broke up with him. And the whole thing with Joy breaking up with him is, not only did it sever ties with Felix, but it also severed ties with Bridget, because they both felt betrayed, and they had dated like 7 odd years. By the time that he proposed, so she said yes because she felt like she had to say yes. But what she had begun to realize was she didn't know who she was. She'd never dated anybody else. And this wasn't necessarily the best relationship for them. Like, they needed to get out and to grow and to expand. I liked how, I mean, she is definitely a rival. She is somebody that Lucy constantly compares herself to and constantly worries is a threat. But I like how Joy, as much as we think we should hate her, as much as we want to hate her, we can't hate her, because she didn't actually do anything wrong. She just had a little bit more foresight than anybody else. But we see she and Bridget do repair their friendship, which is something that Lucy feels slightly threatened by, because they have this whole past that she can't compete with. So I really liked Joy. As much as I shouldn't have liked her, I thought she was a great addition to the cast, and she provided a whole other dynamic that I wasn't expecting. Because you don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of, oh, this is my ex-girlfriend. This is the person that I thought I was going to be with and the person that I loved and I might still love, but she's actually no rival and she's a great person and she should be your best friend. It was refreshing. As I said, Felix does very well. He actually finishes third, and in the wake of this victory, he kisses Lucy's knuckles in front of everybody. So it's kind of like, I mean, they patched things up, but not entirely, and so now she's like, I really don't know what this is supposed to mean. Now everybody is going to be looking at us, and especially Bridget is going to be like, what is going on, because Bridget's not supposed to know. Now Lucy has a lot of frustrations. She is frustrated with herself because she feels like she's being stupid regarding Felix and the situation with Bridget. She's frustrated with Bridget for obvious reasons. She's frustrated with Felix for obvious reasons. And at this specific moment, she is frustrated with Zach because he's being a know-it-all. He's too smart for his own good, and he's giving them all these facts because they have gone to the North Cape, and she's just like, and I don't know what the North Cape is. I think it's a beach. I don't know. So they're on this expedition, and at some point she just loses it. She's like, I'm done. If you're not gonna, to Lucy, if you're not gonna tell me, like, I'm over it. I don't want to be here. I just want to go home. When will I get to go home? She storms off. So actually, before she storms off, they come home. Then she storms off, and Felix follows her. They get down and dirty, have a real raunchy good time. When they get back to the house, they find a note from Bridget saying that she has gone to meet Miles, who is in Charlottetown, Charlottesville. I don't know. I don't know how far away this place is from Prince Edward Island, but whatever the case, she will not be back until the next day. Lucy and Felix, when they had been doing the dirty, they had come to the conclusion they want to be together. Because one of the things that had upset Lucy was in that last summer, she realized that she had deeper feelings for him than she meant to. She wasn't quite sure about his feelings for her, but in any case, it shouldn't matter because they're not supposed to have feelings for each other. She pulls away, like physically pulls away at a certain point. And then the next thing that they're going to do is he is going to be taking her to the airport, but then he backs out of that and Zach comes in his stead. They have a very brief text exchange, which ends with Felix doing a little thumbs up emoji or something. And she is still reeling from the death of her aunt. So this makes her feel like she's not worth much, like she's just a fling, and he obviously does not have real feelings for her. She's also upset because at some point in this building process of Zach and Felix's saltwater cottages, it's revealed that he had been compiling a what to do guide, and he was using this guide as a pickup line for women that he had met. And he'd be like, oh, if you want to know things to do, I can text it to you. And then he would use this to just, have a good old time with a lot of different girls. She's feeling used and abused. At some point reveals that was blown way out of proportion. I never used it as a pickup line. Legitimately, it was a guide of things to do and see that we were going to put in our saltwater cottages. Meanwhile, back in Bridget's note, she has also said that she did purchase tickets to go back home and they would be going home that Wednesday. Felix and Lucy have established their relationship. They have to figure out how to make their relationship work because I believe that Lucy lives in Toronto. I think it's a couple hours difference, and she's just a very busy person. He is too because he has his own business. So they're making all their plans and they're like, oh yeah, this is absolutely going to work. Bridget shows up with Miles, and here's your spoiler. Miles is Australian. His work offered him a position in Australia, so they're going to be moving. Bridget just couldn't figure out how to tell Lucy. So the grand scheme of things, I like how it tied into this theme of friendship, because we know how much Lucy values Bridget. And at this point, we also see how much Bridget values Lucy. They also had been roommates, and we see how they've spent a lot of time together, a lot of quality time, how their lives had revolved around each other for quite some time. And now it's not. And now they're facing the realities of life. So it's not just that, oh, Bridget met somebody, they got engaged, they moved in together, which means she was no longer living with Lucy, and now they were losing some of those ties and those times that they used to spend together consistently. But the fact that she's moving so far away from Lucy and is devastated to the point that she can't even tell Lucy, I think it says a lot. And I love the layers that we're seeing in their friendship. Do I think it was worth waiting the entire novel for? Absolutely not. I was like, is she pregnant? Does she have cancer? I thought it was going to be a big reveal. Granted, Australia is a really long ways away, but did it really warrant this kind of a freak out? I don't think so. Not that Lucy is happy about it, but what can she do about it? They all go to Toronto, have the best wedding ever. Lucy and Felix are telling everybody about their relationship, and it's like a 3 to 4 day old relationship. They are going back to her apartment after the wedding, and she's drunk. And she starts to be like, let's figure this out again. She has worked out with Lillian, the hospitality manager, a deal. Now they're gonna have more business than ever. She's gonna have to hire more people, and she's gonna have a higher workload than ever. And she realized, oh, well, Thanksgiving's not gonna work, and this, that, and the other. So as she is trying to work this out, because they'd already agreed, let's take things slow. So now she's like freaking out because she just doesn't have the schedule for it. She almost flippantly, in my opinion, is like, well, maybe I'll just move to Prince Edward Island. I'll just move there to be with you. And he's like, whoa. What happened to moving slow? And as she continues to word vomit, it's giving the impression of he's her escape. He's her escape from real life. To which he's like, I don't want to be a break from life. We need to be a real thing. At which point he breaks up with her. Not officially break up, but like puts a pause on their relationship. And I'm thinking, you were together for like 3 or 4 days just to say, no, we're not going to be together. This was problematic for me. And overall, it goes back to, we didn't see them as a couple for most of this novel. We saw them as a sexual couple. We did not see them getting to know each other and fall in love. So the fact that she is territorial. Like the number of times that in her head she would see him and be like, mine. Or they're in the middle of something and she's like, mine. It's almost obscene how territorial she is over this man. So for them then to have this huge issue because she decides, or she realizes she has feelings for him that he may or may not reciprocate, and now they've ironed out their issues only for him to put the brakes on things almost immediately. It was a lot of emotional whiplash, and I love them. I want them to be together, and sure, you know what? On a writer's level, I'm totally okay with this because I understand that we're just keeping that tension going. But at this point, I think we have an hour left in the novel because I was listening to it, and I was just like, we do not have time to dive into this. We do not have time to add one more layer. So in my opinion, it felt rushed. So not only were we given kind of a haphazardly constructed relationship, but now they're together, but they're not. but we're almost at the end of the book. So how are they going to get back together? Thank goodness for basically epilogues. It's not necessarily an epilogue yet, but we fast forward in time, so we don't see what happens in the interim. We're given like brief chapter overviews showing how she and Felix, I think they spend a year or so apart. And one thing they had done previously was he had been sending her seeds and she had been sending him books. So at some point, she sees a seed that reminds her of him. So she starts sending him seeds and he starts sending her books. She can't let go of this idea of a flower farm. So she goes through the process of buying land, which I'm just like in no way prepared to purchase acreage. And I'm older than her, but then again, I don't own a flower shop. I don't own a successful business. But at the same time, she didn't sell the flower shop. So she does hand over the reins to Farah, her second in command. But I'm like, where is she getting the money for this? But she decides because Bridget sent Lucy a clipping of something that Zach had sent her because he'd had his eyes out on some real estate in the area. And so this is what Lucy then purchases. She comes to Prince Edward Island under the guise of looking at property. Felix picks her up, only for her to reveal this is actually her property and she will be moving there. Naturally, from there, they reunite and they start building their life together. In Australia, Bridget has had a child. They have seen each other. The end of this book is basically they're moving in together and they're having this housewarming party, and Zach is on the verge of proposing to his girlfriend. Miles and Bridget have actually renewed the work contract, so they are going to be staying in Australia for another 2 years. Obviously, Felix and Lucy are beginning to build their new life together. So it's a good little book. The ending was a bit rough. It's time for me to go to bed. The ending was a bit rushed, in my opinion. I thought perhaps Lucy and Felix could have established their relationship a little sooner, or maybe the timeline wasn't so tight so that they could have had a little bit more time together before they break up. I don't know. It was kind of wonky, but overall, I would have liked a firmer relationship foundation for those two rather than it literally being all about sex until that last minute and all that good stuff. But again, very good book, very good read. Like with Meet Me at the Lake, there's sexy scenes. It just kind of caught me off guard where it was in complete opposition to the romance and the building of a romantic relationship. Something about this book, I think I would have preferred this book and the last to have been a little bit more closed door. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed that and I will see you later. Bye.